Wait for a couple more people to come in here, and we'll get started. What's going on, guys? Omar, what's going on, dude? Alright, let's get started here. So, this is my Class 1 truck. It's, this was a, RC 4-wheel drive 4Runner body, which I turned into a pickup, basically. What's up, Bill? It's a hard body. I glued the doors in, glued the hood on so they don't open. We got light buckets, no lights. I got a Team Garage Hack front bumper, or at least the front bumper tabs, a steel front rod. Team Garage Hack Fairlead. I got one of those like night. What are these things called? Night Izzy, the mini S-beaners. I want to say this is hardcore RC winch line. We'll work around the truck. We got a nice LARC sticker there, a super safety sticker. Give you a full around. So I chopped the back of the back of the truck off. I'm going over my Class 1 as part of the 12 days of trucks, I'm gonna call it. So this will be day 1, and then I'm gonna do 11 more trucks between now and Christmas. Night eyes, there you go. I'll go with that. So today's the first day, my Class 1 truck. So the back, I put pulleys here, so take my winch line, and we could go and pull off to the side, or vice versa, go to the other side. Basically, I hacked off the back of the 4Runner. Just put some styrene back here, just to shorten it up a little bit. The roof, we got an LARC printed roof rack. Put a pulley on top. I have it spaced off, so I got a point for Sorrca points for Class 1. In the interior here, we got 2 skeletons. Pro tip: use a zip tie as a seatbelt. Gives you a scale point and keeps your drivers from flying around. Give them some pedals in there. You got a shifter, steering wheel. What's up, Chris? In the bed, we got a 3D printed toolbox. This is where I keep my battery. So I just put the battery in here just so it's easy to change out. I got a little dog that looks similar to my dog. Little ammo crate. Put a fire extinguisher, an axe, and a little gas can back here. That's pretty much the body. You guys are funny. But I got, so the body is held in with these little grub screws here. Put grub screws in here, so the body kind of like sets in there. Oh, play with it to get it down, but it sits in there. And then basically I squish the slider back to get it to fit. So that's the body. The chassis is a negative G C1V1 chassis. Pretty much stock, I guess you'd say. I mean, it's an aftermarket chassis, but I took the grub screws and I just bolted these little metal sliders on to give me metal slider points. So you get 3 points instead of 1 point. It's a forward motor mount style truck. You got your forward motor mount up here. I'm running a Holmes Hobby Revolver 540M team spec motor. Negative G, all their chassis have this little 3D printed transfer case. And then it comes with their negative G intermediate shaft. I've got, I believe, wild bore drive shafts front and rear. Just nice plastic, cheap drive shafts. Never had any issues with them. We have a Silent Assassin ESC with, I got a Castle BEC to run the winch servo with. We got our Fly Sky Noble receiver. What else we got here? We got Fish Crawler Products, rear link riser. The truck has AR-45 portals, front and rear. The rear has brass portal covers in black. The front has CP43 axle with brass knuckles. I still have to shave the steering stops down to get maximum steering, but we'll get there on that. Up front, I made this custom winch mount because I couldn't find a good spot to mount the winch in this thing. So I just 3D printed this mount. We got a Shift XLP winch in here. We got an NSDRC RS700 V2 in there, purple edition. As you can see, everything on here is purple. We have D's shock band. We got shock bands front and rear. The rear on the inside, the front are on the outside. And then shocks, we have deluxe DriveTech shocks. The front are shorts. I put these little like 2mm silicone spacers in there. The rear, or these are super shorts, 80 mils. The rear are shorts, 96 millimeters. I got 2 titanium G-Speed chassis spacers back here with another Team Garage Hack bumper tabs. I lost one of the set screws, so that's why there's this ridiculous looking screw here. With this, it's only been the Super Shafty with this build, and I don't know, I was like maybe 60 something out of 80 because I finished one course, I DNF'd the second course I did. I'll actually show you the axle. So the reason I have the CP43 front axle is because I gun done messed up, bro. I was winching up. All of a sudden, truck wasn't moving. Winch is still spooling in. Here's part of the that. And I'm going uphill. The truck's not moving. Winch still spooling in. All of a sudden, the truck lurches forward, and this tire just comes, just flies out right in front of the truck. And I was like, well, I guess we're done with that. And instead of like rushing to try and get the truck back together that day, I was like, you know what, let me just buy something better that won't break, like super shafty axle. And so I didn't even do the last 2 courses in Class 1. Trying to think what else I missed. It's got, so Negative G sells their own link kits, but that didn't really work for me. I think the only one I'm using is the front upper, which might not even be. So the rears, I'm pretty sure, are from the Negative G kit. With the fronts, they wanted the axle, like, it would have been back a little farther. Which I don't know if you could see. You can't really tell, but I moved this forward to get this as far, like the tire as far close to the front of the truck as possible. There you go. I mean, I'm pretty sure all the plastic AR-45 portals are going to break at some point, depending on how hard you drive it. You can't really go wrong with the Trio, Vitavon, Super Shafty. They're all pretty quality housings. These are Trio wheels. Okay, so that's what I missed. These are just Trio purple wheels. So we got the Trio 1.9 purple wheels. We have D440 printed inserts. And then I have Proline Hyrax and G8 compound 4.19s. I have Corrupt Carbon Works blue rotors in there because that's all I had at the time and I needed the scale points to max out my truck. So for anybody who doesn't really know Sorrca rules and whatnot, so your center section of your truck basically dictates your wheelbase. So or not wheelbase, but wheel width. So how wide your truck is at the doors here, you can't be wider. The inside track width of your truck has to be narrower than your doors are. And same with your bumper. So like this truck, it's kind of hard to tell, but it's just barely making it as far as width requirements. And like as far as what do you call it? As far as like trying to get the most performance out of a Sorrca truck, you want to build as close to like the requirements as possible. So like I could probably move the axle a touch forward more to get closer to the front of the body. Because you could go, let's see if we get that in there. Your tire can't go past the front of the body. So you want it as close to the front and as close to the rear to give you the best breakover angles and approach angles you could get. Class 1 trucks, you need your slider to be within an inch, front and rear. Trying to think what else we can go over. I went with a hard body Class 1 just because you get an extra 12 scale points you get the front rectangle, center rectangle, and the rear. You get 4 points for each rectangle, so it gives you negative 12 points to start with. The servo cover is just craft foam. So I just put this over so you couldn't see the servos from the side. I know they say servos don't count as far as hiding electronics, but I don't want to take any chances failing tech because you could see the servos through the fender well. I mean, if you really want to push it, you could probably consider that an inner fender liner. I don't know. I think that's probably pushing it, but it's almost because could almost consider that an inner fender liner. Maybe if I extended it a little bit. You get points for inner fender liners. Let's see, how many? So, the one thing I figured out is the roof rack. The whole idea behind spacing the roof rack off the roof. If you just have the roof rack on the roof, you still get 1 point as a scale accessory. It just doesn't go in the scale. What do you call it? It doesn't go in the roof rack category. Yeah, that works. I'll put it on scales right now. That's a good question. Because let me see. Let me see. Put a battery in it and put it on the scale. Let's see where we're at. That's not the battery. Hold on. The toolbox is just a 3D printed toolbox. That's the whole reason I, to cover my shock towers. That's the whole reason I put that toolbox there. Plus it gives me a nifty spot to put my battery. I use these little 4S 450 milliamp batteries. Yeah, I could go over the rectangle a little more in depth in a second. Let's see. Hopefully there's a battery in here. There is. I know. Don't tell me. Where can you buy one? That's a good question. I'll have to see if I can get a file and print them. Let's see. Something like that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to have this thing on the screen. We'll see. We'll see. Right, left. I need a Bluetooth scale, yeah. Oh, jeez. They didn't have the Bluetooth ones when I bought this. Actually, hold on, that wasn't clear. That wasn't zeroed. Are we gonna clear or not? There we go. Something like that. So we're at, I don't know if that's accurate. Why does that seem like it's so far off? I don't know, it seems like it's way far off. I don't know if I'm buying that, but you go off total weight. So 108 ounce or 109 ounces, which is £6.8 with the battery in it. Yeah, I don't know if they're the right size though for those. This one's 3D printed. The I'm trying to think what the other company is. One of these companies also makes what do you call it? They make little duffel bags that weigh like nothing, so people just cut a hole in the bottom of them and just stick them in the bed. Oh, it'd probably help if the battery. This was centered, but maybe it's making it worse. I don't know, but you get the idea. It's a little under 7 pounds. It's a little heavy, but it's also a hard body. Fully pointed out, so it's going to be a little heavy. So let me get rid of these, and I'll go over the rectangle thing. These go off. There we go. Alright, so there you go. And Jordan makes the duffel bags. So, front rectangle. The easiest way for me to explain this is front rectangle is on class 1. Every class is different. So on class 1, your front rectangle basically has to go past the front tire and has to go an inch behind the rear tire. And you need 1/2 inch of material above the tire. Everything's measured at full compression. So like this, let me put this body on and give you a better idea. Okay, that's a little better. Is that full compression? Yeah, I guess so. So, everything's measured at full compression. So, let me go to square. So your body's got to go past the front of the tire, which as you can see, the body goes past the front of the tire. And then your bumper has to be in front of your body. This is all class 1. I don't know about tomorrow, but probably Thursday I'll do a video on class 2 explaining that. And then from the back of your tire, you have an inch. Your slider has to be within an inch of your the back of your tire, the trailing edge of your front tire. Your slider has to be within an inch. Then the center has to be, I believe it's 4.5 inches tall. I believe it's 4.5 inches tall, which is from the bottom of the slider all the way up to the top of the roof, where I'm at like 5.5-ish. So I'm plenty good there. Then moving on the rear, so the front starts from an inch past the front tire to an inch before the rear tire. That's your center rectangle. Your rear rectangle goes an inch before. So an inch before this is where your rear rectangle starts, and then it has to go past the rear tire. So it doesn't have to go a lot past. It just has to be past. So I could have gone, say, I don't know, where are we at? Like, probably could have gone 3/8 of an inch shorter, give or take. Roof rack does not count in body height. You do not need a roof, but if you have a roll cage, that would count. But the roof rack does not count towards total body height for the center rectangle. You need a 2-inch by 3-inch area to measure that 4.5 inches tall. Class 1's pretty restrictive with like body modifications. So like class 1, you can't really pinch your body, mainly because your track width has to be wider than the inside of your track width. Trying to think what else. Your sliders. On class 1, your sliders have to go below the top of the wheel. So like when you're looking at it like this, your sliders have to be below the top of your wheel for class 2 or class 1. Class 1's 60 point scale, so let's see, I could show you my, I guess I'll just put it on the screen. That might make our life easier. Let's do, so you guys can see this. I zoom in, not really. Might be a little hard to see, but if anybody wants this scale point calculator, let me know, and I could send you a link for the scale point calculator. So basically, like, you look up here all the way to the left, and you got hard body. If you have a hard body and you meet the rectangle requirements, you get 4 for the front, 4 for the center, 4 for the rear. Then if you had inner fender wells, you would get 1 point for the front, 1 point for the rear. I don't have either. Drop bed. So I'll go back to this real quick. So drop bed, you have to be 1.25 inches. It's going to be hard to show you. You have to be 1.25 inches depth for the bed for the entire way, except for like wheel wells or like the toolbox. But you got to be 1.25 inches down to get drop bed points, which is why I opted for the pickup look instead of a 4Runner look. Because the 4Runner, you only get cargo points instead of drop bed points. Starting a build, I would pick what body you want to go with, and then go from there. Because your body is going to dictate what your inner track width is going to be. So you got to make sure whatever body you want to pick is going to work with the axles you want to use. So basically you want to measure the width of the body at the doors, and then put some wheels and tires on and measure the inside track width of your axle and see if that'll even work. Otherwise you're going to have to go back to either picking a different body for class 1 or a different axle set to get a little narrower. So we got 3 points for the drop bed. Tube bed, which I don't know if you could do a tube bed for class 1. But you would get 3 points if it was made out of metal, or 1 point if it was plastic. Roll bar or headache rack. I'll show you guys. So roll bar or headache rack has to be fastened to either the bedside or down in the bed, and it has to be within 1/8 inch of the height of the top of the cab, and I believe it has to be within 1/8 inch of the back of the cab to get points for roof rack, or not roof rack, roll bar or headache rack. If you were to make it out of metal, you get 3 points, or 2 points, sorry. Make it out of plastic, you get 1 point. Moving on, truggy, tubers. I don't think you can use any of that for class 1. Yeah, class 2, class 3. So, tubers and truggies is only class 2 or 3 stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. Sliders. There's no thickness requirement on sliders. As long as, they're saying, as long as you rest the truck on the slider and it could support the weight of the truck without moving. So like if this thing were to, like, I don't know, move, or the body starts moving, then you wouldn't be able to get slider points. But being as it's bolted to the chassis and it's strong enough material, it'll count as slider points. So you get 3 points for metal, 1 point for plastic. And then you got next you got stinger or grill guard. Could be any kind of hoop, front or rear, doesn't matter. There's no like requirements on how big it has to be. It just has to be, I think it's 1/8 inch material or bigger. If you're using TGH bumper tabs, they accept 3/16 tubing. So I mean, it's a little stronger, but it's also heavier. Fabricated shock mounts. It's if like say you had a steel, say you have a steel ladder frame chassis, and you wanted to like cut a piece of metal and like weld it to the chassis, you would get fabricated shock mount points. I think you could even bolt it as long as it's like custom made and not something that like Corrupt Carbon Works, you know, they make their own shock towers to go with their chassis rails. You wouldn't get custom fabricated shock tower points for that. Bumpers, front and rear, you get 3 points for metal front or rear. So like if you did metal front and rear, you get 6 points, like I have. If you did metal rear, plastic front, you would get 4 points. You get 1 point for each plastic bumper. Then next you got the roof rack tab, which I'm almost debating on if having a roof rack is even worth it at this point. You really just want this pulley up here. As long as you don't need the scale points, you could kind of like get rid of your roof rack points, because for this being 3D printed, it's A, way oversized, and B, it sticks up a lot. So like for that one scale point, you could just bolt the roof rack straight to the roof and count it as a scale item instead of a roof rack. I'll show you that in a little bit. Light bar, you would get 1 point. And then we're over to interior. So interior, in order for it to count as an interior, you need full depth interior. So what they're counting as a full depth, it's got to be an inch below the windshield. So I'm at like the windshield cowl here. So I'm at like 1.5 inches almost to the floor. You need, to get full interior points, you need the depth. You need basically a firewall. You basically need the firewall here with like the dashboard look, I guess. You need seats, and I believe you need a steering wheel. It doesn't say anything about pedals, shifter, and then driver's a whole separate concept. So if you use like only if you're Eddie, because he's special. But as far as like if you were to use an RC 4-wheel drive interior, you would get 4 points because it's a 2-seater and it's not custom made. I don't know if they're gonna change it, but as of now, like this is all made out of craft foam, which is super light and super easy to make stuff with. So I just made the seats out of craft foam. The whole thing is out of craft foam. You can see where I cut, bent, and just glued it to the door there. You get sheets of craft foam for like a couple bucks on Amazon. You probably get them at like Michael's or other craft stores. So because I made this custom, we'll call it, it's kind of ghetto, but you get an extra 2 points because you made it custom. So now you get 6 points for a 2-seat interior instead of 4. An interior cover would be something like a Rift or a Bomber interior. That's like just a plastic thing with like the guy's head sticking out. That you would get like 2 points for a 2-seat, 1 point for a 1-seat. Or say you made a custom interior but it wasn't the full 1-inch depth, I think you would get interior cover points. Not totally sure on that. Next you got SUV cargo area. So like if this was a 4Runner with a cap, or maybe even if it was a pickup and you had a cap on it, that would be considered SUV cargo area, and you get 1 point for that. It's not as worth it as running a pickup, basically, for points. Drivers, they may change it, they may not. Originally, skeletons didn't count because they're not living, they're dead. Now they changed it so you can use action figures, you can use skeletons. You can use basically whatever you want as long as it looks like a driver figure. As long as it's not like, I don't know, a creature, I guess. It's got to be a human style figure. So, skeletons count. They're cheap. You get them on Amazon for like, I don't know, a few bucks for maybe $1 or $2 each if you buy a 6-pack or something. But you get 4 points for a driver, 4 points for a passenger. You got a maximum of two people in the car. So like even if you have a 4-seat interior, you can't have 4 passengers, or you could, but you won't get four people's points worth. Next are the rest of your scale point categories. Leaf springs. You get 3 points if you have them on one axle, front, rear, doesn't matter. If you have them on both axles, or if you're crazy enough to run a 6x6 in Class 1, you get 7 points for having 2 or more leaf sprung axles. Drive axles, if you want to run 6x6, you get 3 points extra. If you run an 8x8 or something like that, you get 4 points extra. Wouldn't know if that's going to change how your body's going to work drastically. I don't know anybody who's ever tried that, really. Be curious to see something like that. Chassis mounted servo is kind of cheesy in Class 1 because it's required. So everybody's going to have a chassis mounted servo in Class 1. Everybody's getting 5 scale points there. Functional transfer case. So, functional transfer case. Anything with a forward motor mount that has another shaft that comes to the transfer case is going to give you transfer case points. Like a Vanquish, the VFD transmission will give you transfer case points. I believe the TRX4 transmission gives you transfer case points. But something like a Stealth X or a 3-gear or a 2-low will not give you transfer case points. It's got to have like a separate set of gears to give gear reduction from how they worded it. Or it's got to be a separate from where the motor's mounted. I don't know if I have an example of this one. 3D engine. If you have a full 3D engine, they're calling it like engine block, oil pan, like intake, all that stuff. You get 4 points. If it's just a cover, to where like it covers your servo or your forward motor, you're gonna get 1 point. Then if you have a spare tire has to be, I believe it's the same size. It might not have to be full size. It might be like, it's got to be within like a certain amount of the full size tire to get spare tire points. I have to look it up to see. And then your next category, scale points or scale accessories, you get a maximum of 14. So it's functional, non-functional. So I'll show you all the scale points on this to give you some ideas. What I put was rotors on all 4 wheels, you get 1 point. So for a winch, the winch counts as 1, but if you're counting a winch, that also includes the winch line and the fair lead as the same point. So that's 2 points. You could count the S-beaner as a point. Now we're up to 3. It's kind of a little cheesy, but that's like essentially a shackle or whatever. Let's see, I don't have a land anchor here. The land anchor's on my other truck. Land anchor would be 4 points. If you have both wipers, that's another point. They give me 5. The roof pulley, or it's basically almost functioning as a snatch block. That's going to be my 6-point. I have the toolbox. That's 7. Let's see what else we got. License plate would be 8. I have the dog is 9. The axe is 10. Fire extinguisher is 11. Ammo can's 12. And I only need 12 to max out my truck. I have a fuel jug, which is 13. You count seat belts for your driver and passenger is 14. The shifter, you could probably count. That'd be 15. You only get up to maximum of 14. So, like, it's pretty easy to get to 14. I'm going to put a bungee back here just so I can, like, hook my land anchor to it easily. That's another point. It counts as like a tow rope or a bungee. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything scale point wise. Door handles on both sides. If you ran mirrors, you could count those. I guess you could count these limit straps as points. You probably could. I'm assuming they would count. I don't think you would get I could probably count the front two as one. Like it'd probably count as pairs, is my guess. Man, you kind of get scale points for whatever you can argue at the tech table, basically. Nobody's really gonna be like, oh, you can't have that. You'll be like, well, my full-size truck has it. Most tech guys are pretty forgiving as long as you're not blatantly trying to like cheat or get one over on everybody else. You could run headlights, which would be 1 point. What else could you use? You could get a steering stabilizer. Like if you say you put a piece of heat shrink on either this or you put a heat shrink on here and say it's a steering stabilizer, you could do that. If you had sand ladders, if your hood or your doors open, that would be a scale point for each. What else? You could put drinks on the inside. You could put like, I don't know, any scale item. You could put like glue, like say your battery in the bed or under the hood or something. That could give you a point. I don't know. The scale points are pretty lenient. Anybody have any questions on the Class 1 or questions on Sorrca rules for Class 1? Mirrors, I would stay away from if I was you. So like if you have a scale item fall off, you get a 10-point touch penalty. You have to put the item back in the truck and continue the course. And if it falls out again, you're going to get another 10-point touch penalty. Anybody else got any other questions? This went way longer than I thought it was going to. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, if you want to do that on Discord or something or whatever, we could definitely work on that. If you guys have any questions, post them up, send us a message, join Discord, and shoot us a message in there, or even if it's not us, somebody else could always give you a couple ideas. We made a post earlier today with the Discord link, so you could join if you're not already in there. Yeah, 14 is the max skill points for every class, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. I think that's it.